Ginger. This is Sharanya from Chennai Times. So nice to have you over a Zoom meeting for an interview regarding your regarding your new album. So to start with, tell us about the album and what went through the process of making it.
So basically, this album started from a documentary project I was working on. It's called And She Could Be Next, which was a documentary series here, executive produced by Ava DuVernay, who's an amazing filmmaker, directed by Marge Safinia and Grace Lee. And we started with a score. And then we decided to reach out to a lot of our artist friends to make this album for women empowerment, kind of seeing what's going on in the country right now and just talking to all of our artist friends about how they're feeling. So it started there. It was supposed to be an EP and suddenly it became so many songs. And we reached out to Aloe Black and Sarok, who's this incredible female rapper here from Georgia. We reached out to DMC, who's in Bombay. We reached out to Saul Williams, Suzanne Dehim, and just this album came together that was just really spectacular. So what we did was we wrote a bunch of songs about the themes of what it was. And because of the pandemic, we had to send these songs out and we couldn't be in the studio together. So it was definitely a very different experience putting an album like this together when everybody's isolated and in different countries.
Okay, so what do you think is the core of the album?
The core of the album is really about how far women have come and how much further we have to go. And I think every time we think we've made strides, you look around and you go, wow, there's so much more work to do, man. There's just so much more work to do. I mean, I know you know that what's going on with you guys over there. You see what's happening in the US. It's just, there's never time to be complacent with any of it. And every generation keeps having to move this forward because we keep having the same things happen to us over and over and over again.
Okay, so the songs go with all of that.
Yeah, so basically the theme was we would tell every woman that we worked with just saying, these are the themes. What is it like being a woman in the world to you? And what was incredible is you have these women from all these different countries and places, and the experience might be a little different from each of them, but the through line is exactly the same. They spoke about resilience, they talked about strength, they talk about raising families. And when you think about what we have to do as women, you know, how all of us are so multitasking. So many of us take care of our family members. So many of us work full time. So many of us have to do so many things during the day that you can't even fathom, right? But then we have to show up and smile and be strong and not be emotional and all these normal things that you hear, right? And so it was so amazing hearing from so many different backgrounds of artists that we're all going through the same thing and that we have to keep picking ourselves up and keep moving forward because we have to. We don't have a choice. So I think the great thing about art is that we can do things without being preachy, right? So when we do a project and we're making music or we're making films, people come to it and you're not saying, hey, you have to do this. You have to be a feminist. You have to be, you know, and then people will go, oh God, no. So the amazing thing about art is we can convey messages without hitting anyone over the head with anything. And when you make catchy music, when you have artists that people know and you're just telling stories, I think it's such an interesting way to convey messages like this. Like the album is very pop, hip hop, soul. It's very dancey. There's a lot of songs you can put on. And if you listen to the lyrics, you're going to catch certain things, but you can also just listen to the album and enjoy the music. And I think that's the fun of art, that you can kind of convey all these messages without having to say them over and over again, you know? So basically, yeah, there's 9 songs. And the first song is with Aloe Black and Sarok, and it's called Believe. And that song is an incredibly inspiring song, just about no matter what you're going through in life, you have to believe and you're going to get through whatever darkness you're going to get through. And that song's about 4 minutes long. That's the first single that we released. And then after that, we have a song called New Generation, which has DMC from Bombay on it. Heesun Lee, an incredible rapper here. And that talks about the new generation of women coming forward and how there's always a new generation that has to come up and keep fighting forward. That's about 4 minutes long. And then we've worked with some amazing artists. There's a really long track called Burn, which feels like almost like a 9 Inch Nails song. It's a very long, big rock anthem. We have Saul Williams, Suzanne Dehim on that one. And then we have some more filmy pieces of music as well. So it kind of encapsulates like a pop, rock, R&B, hip hop album. And it just has so many varying artists. And it feels like a beautiful, cohesive piece from start to finish. If you listen to it, you can hear the journey through the whole thing. And it was so amazing to work with this many artists. Like on one song, we have Sheila E., who's absolutely legendary, who worked with Prince, and this incredible girl from New Orleans named Tariana Tank Ball, who is just an unbelievable vocalist. And so each song that we wrote, we kind of went to very specific people and the song came alive. So there's 9 songs. Each one is about between 3 to 4 minutes long. And then in another 2 weeks, we're going to release 4 bonus tracks along with it as well, with some other big surprise artists. So it's been a long process to finish it. So the song process, honestly, Sharanya, was like really tricky because I'm so used to writing and just going into the studio. Like musicians have to be in the studio. We all vibe off of each other. You write, you hear things. This was very different and it was very challenging to make music during these times. And I think we had to learn new ways to do it. So for example, my writing partner, who I've written songs with for ages, she's in London right now. So that was the first step of, oh my goodness, the time difference. So if she was up, sometimes it would be 6 a.m. for me. Sometimes it would be late at night, and we would just get on FaceTime and we'd write. And that was the first process of, okay, now we're writing on FaceTime. That's new. Okay. And then with the artists, instead of being in the studio and you can listen to something and you can say, that's great, do another take. It's such a different process to get things back and listen to them and have to make notes, and you lose some things in that. So it was very challenging to start to figure out how we were going to work. So sometimes we were writing on Zoom, sometimes we were writing over the phone. Like one of my producers, like we would be on the phone and I'd be playing stuff in the studio and listening over the phone going, can you hear that? Okay, these are some ideas I have. So it was a very trippy experience to kind of write in this way. And I think the advantage of it now is knowing that no matter where you are, you can. Because some of our musicians with the pandemic, one of our musicians is stuck in New Zealand. Another musician was stuck in Madras for 6 months. Another musician, people just ended up everywhere. A drummer sitting in Switzerland. So it was very new to realize like everybody has to figure out how to record, and we were constantly changing the way we were writing and finishing the songs because of this. So we were adjusting as we were going because we were learning, because we've never had to do it like this before. So it was very interesting, very challenging, and I feel confident now that we've learned how to do this.
Nice, nice. Why do you think this album is relevant today, and that too across the world, not just in the US, but not it. I mean, it is very relevant because it's talking about women and the struggles, and the struggles. Maybe it might differ from country to country, but it's still relevant. So why do you think it's still relevant?
I think the funny thing is, like, I don't think it's that different. I don't think women's struggles are that different country to country. I think different countries hide it better. I think it's funny. I remember working on a project here, and there was a Q&A in the audience, and somebody stood up and raised their hand and said, you know, you're talking about America, but what about all the rape that's going on in India? You know, and then I was like, you know how many rapes happen on college campuses here? Like, these things that we pretend that things are third world countries or first, like all these things are not true. Women are treated the same everywhere. The things happen to women same everywhere. Things are covered up everywhere. We fight for our rights for every single generation, whether it's to speak up, whether it's for our mothers, whether it's for our grandmothers. Certain countries just pretend that these things don't happen. And I think every generation we go through it, and now we're saying words we never said before. We're speaking on rape, we're speaking on abuse, we're speaking on gaslighting, we're speaking on these things that our mothers and grandmothers couldn't talk about. And that's in every single country. The US is the same as India in that way. You know, we can look at India and go, oh my God, this is going on. It's the same stuff here, man. We're not allowed to talk about it. Women have to go through the same shit here that they have to go through there. So I think it's relevant everywhere because we're all realizing collectively as women that we don't have to put up with this shit. We don't have to put up with it. We can speak up. And at some point, the men have to join us. And that's the thing. If they don't stand with us, none of this stuff happens. We can keep saying the same things and men go, oh, you're a feminist. And all these words become bad words. But at some point, the men have to stand with us. And I think that's relevant everywhere. When we see who's leading our countries, when we see what's going on the streets, like, it's relevant everywhere. It's relevant everywhere. And I don't think any country is going through anything any less when it comes to women, sadly.
Okay, okay. So what kind of response have you got for the album as such, as of now?
It's been kind of amazing because it was such a strange time we started making the album. Like here, all the protests had started with everything happening here. And it was a really hard time because artists are such empathetic creatures to begin with. I mean, we all go into our holes when this pandemic started. People are just not coming out. People are not recording. You're not feeling inspired. I think because so many artists collectively came together to use their voices, I think it made a lot of noise here. And I think it's just starting. And I think all the artists we specifically chose already do this kind of work. They speak up. They're very active in their communities. They're successful musicians. So I think the noise has just started, and we're really excited to roll this into next year, because regardless of what happens with our election, regardless of what happens anywhere, this is a continuous thing, man. It's a continuous thing, and we have to keep pushing. So it's exciting that we've started this collective now, and I think this is going to lead to a lot of different things. So we've had a lot of amazing responses, a lot of interviews on it, and you know, let's see what happens. we just want to keep moving forward and we have to do it for the next generation of girls, man. Yeah.
Nice. So, but how do you think COVID as such has impacted the musician community as such?
Oh my God. So I can speak on just LA and New York. Like so many musicians that I know in LA and New York have had to leave because there's no concerts, there's no shows, there's no gigs, there's nothing. And I think it's been really hard for musicians who depend on touring, musicians who depend on sessions. Like our work has been gone, you know? So I know a lot of musicians who've had to move back home. And I think mental health is something also that hasn't been talked about very much here. And that's something that's affecting a lot of people right now. And I think we have to be very aware of it, you know? And I think during this time, I think a big lesson has been like, we all have to reach out to our friends, and a lot of musicians have been struggling. So COVID has hit everyone really hard. And I think for us to work on this project too, I think it was important for all of us to sort of use something to keep busy and work hard, because otherwise you can really sink. And we've been seeing it a lot. And I think to really acknowledge how hard this has been for people, because humans aren't supposed to be isolated like this. You're not supposed to be by yourself, you know? And especially for us, like musicians are such social creatures. We tour, we're out all the time, we're playing. So it's definitely been very, very hard for the musician community, I've seen across the board.
Okay. But so moving apart from the work that you're doing there, and apart from what's happening to the music community, tell us about your Indian projects, and are you working on something? Recently, we saw your work being credited in Article 15. So after that, are you working on something else?
Yeah. So right now I'm working on an Amazon series called The Last Hour, directed by Amit Kumar, which is coming out on Amazon April or May of next year. So it's an incredible series that I'm scoring. I've worked with him a lot. I worked with him on Monsoon Shootout. He's one of my favorite people in the whole world. So I'm excited to be doing a project in Bombay. So for that, we were actually up at the foothills of the Himalayas when we could still travel last year, recording all the sounds up there and musicians. So that's a really exciting project coming up. I'm working on an album right now with some artists out there, which will probably come out early next year. Same thing, far distance COVID recording. And the funny thing was, before all this was happening, I was coming to Bombay like once every couple of months. So I was very excited to start coming there more. And then thanks to COVID, it's been about 10 months now.
Yeah.
But I've been loving working out there. I've started working with a lot more artists out there. So I'm excited on projects that are coming out next year, which I will tell you very soon about.
Okay, so I mean, what has been what's been your experience like? You know, working on working in Indian cinema, and working on Indian albums as such.
I really love it because my background is that I went to music and dance school in Kalakshetra when I was very small. Yeah, and for me, I grew up in a family of music. I grew up with Indian music. I started as an Indian classical player. So for me, my head, my background, it's all there. No matter what happens in the Western world, like I think in Tamil, I think in Bengali, I write in South Indian verses. I write, like it's very, my brain is there. So for me to come here and to learn these things and to get to work in this market has been amazing. But for me, when I go back there and I work with the artists there, I feel much more connected in some way. I feel like it's my home and I understand it. And so it's been really exciting to work on this series. It's been exciting to connect with a lot of artists there and start working with Anubhav on Article 15. It was so wonderful because those kind of themes, all those projects, those musicians, they're so close to my heart. And I've always wanted to work in India more. And now with the ease of travel, I was able to do it. So I'm excited to come back as soon as I'm able to.
Mm.
Yeah, I definitely prefer it. And it's getting more and more exciting with the artists out there.
Okay. So, and what's your take on, doing virtual concerts?
I've been asked to do some. I haven't done one yet. I'm pretty torn on it, honestly. I understand that we need an outlet and people need to see it. For me specifically, I think the excitement for a concert is the connection with the audience. And when you're playing live and when somebody reacts to you, you react differently. Even your playing changes, your singing changes, the songs you sing change. And I think there's something very lost online with that. I think it feels very distant. I know we're able to all communicate on Zoom. I know we're able to do studio on Zoom, but there's definitely something lost. So I haven't done it yet. I've been asked, but I don't feel inspired enough to do it yet because I don't feel like the connection is there quite yet. It's much better for me to record something and put it out. But a concert to me is still very difficult, I think. But maybe it'll change if you have to do this for another year.